Now the next rule, it's really just, this also applies to the power rule as well. It's just technically it fits under the same category. But the next property I want to discuss is what is the derivative of a constant? Well, as you can see from the lecture notes, it says for any real number c, the derivative of that constant is always equal to 0. So this is another thing I'd recommend remembering. The derivative of a number, and notice this does not involve x, is just 0. It will cancel out. And so first of all, does this violate the power rule? But since a constant, if I'm thinking about that, that has no x. You could rewrite a constant as x to the 0 power. Because remember, x to the 0 power is 1. So c times 1 makes c. Basically, x to the 0, if I drop the power here, this would leave me with 0 times c and subtract 1 times x to the minus 1. But basically what I'd be left with is 0. So it fits the power rule and it still works. We could always check with the difference quotient as well. Like if we want to know, the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x over h, to see what that would be. Well, what we'd have here is the function would just be c. So f of x plus h would be c, and we'd be left with c minus c over h, which would be 0 over h. And since h, technically it's undefined at 0. Whoops, you can't see what I'm writing. But since the numerator would just cancel out because c minus c is 0, I would just be left with 0, and the limit would 0 over h is just 0. So basically the limit problem of dividing by 0 would go away because 0 over h is always 0 regardless of the limit. And sorry, I was a little lazy with my notation there, but the point is it actually works. It follows the power rule. It works with the definition of the derivative as well. And also based on common sense, a constant function is just a function which would be a horizontal line at y is equal to c. A horizontal line is the equation y equals c. And the question is, well, that would be the same as a function f of x is equal to c. And basically, if our question is, well, what's the slope of such line? The slope of a horizontal line is always equal to 0 because it does not rise, it only runs. So its rise is always going to be 0, and run could be thought of as to being anything. But basically, slope of such lines are 0. It makes sense that our derivative of a constant is also 0 as well, and it does not violate the power rule.